Are we ready? Let me get cozy because we are gonna get into the spending. And these videos are always interesting for me to record because it is me bearing my soul into the video, sharing exactly how we're spending. And yeah, it feels like a little bit like, oh, should I be ashamed that we're spending this much money when we're not working? But also, no. So I'm gonna keep making these videos and I wanna show you what it looks like when we aren't making money, at least not through traditional 9-to-5 employment, but through unemployment and reselling items on Facebook. Because I also want to show you what it looks like once we do get full-time jobs. So if you're new here, hello, welcome. I'm Danielle and I make videos on the first gen experience. Right now, the big thing that's happening in my life is I am looking for a full-time job, as is my partner, who is probably behind me applying to jobs as we speak. And we are recently married. So if you want to see videos on how I'm navigating these things, of how I'm talking about everything from my specific lens of being first gen daughter of immigrants, then hit that subscribe button. And yeah, this video is our monthly budget video. So we'll do this every month for the rest of the year. At least that is my goal. Let's talk about what we had planned for February. And I'm gonna have my computer next to me here. And at some point I will share my screen so you can see our actual 2024 spending money tracker, which you can get one yourself. I'll put a link to the spreadsheet that I use that I created in the description. But our goal for February was really thinking about how to get a handle on our overspending, right? We clearly saw that we were spending a lot of money in places that we thought were not necessary, but also not unnecessary. So we'll get into it, like what those things were, but there were purchases and expenses that come up that you're not gonna just say, I'm not gonna spend money on this because that means something bigger. Once you understand what I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about. But we also wanted to think about other ways to make more money. Obviously, we're still applying to full-time jobs, but also thinking about what we can do in the meantime until we find and secure those full-time positions. Ari started looking for a part-time job and he landed one. He has a part-time job now. You'll see that later on. He didn't get paid in February, but at least he started working in February. I have also been applying to contract positions, part-time positions, just in case that moves faster than me securing a 9-to-5 position. Also in February, in order to get a handle on our overspending, we thought it would be best to do a no spend week. A no spend, I think it was about 10 days that we did. And that helped us a lot, really see areas and understand where we felt like we were spending too much. We were surprised by the outcome, but I think it was received well, so we will be doing it again in March. But now let's get into February numbers. I want you to see kind of what we were doing. I'll share everything. Starting with the spending plan tab, which is what we kind of create at the beginning of the month and what we fill out at the end of the month. Okay, so we start with income. So our income, we knew we were gonna get unemployment income, so that stayed pretty much the same. We did add a line item, or I guess we had it for January, but we did make an additional $400 in reselling. We were able to sell the candles, half of the candles from our wedding, and I also sold my wedding dress. That was a bit harder than I thought it would be to part with, but sold that for $240 with the PayPal fee. It was like $230. So that's what the reselling is. And we'll break it down in the February tab. So our total income for February was $39.49. And I don't have sinking funds included here, But if you remove sinking funds from January, we actually made more money in February. So we're doing good. We're doing good. Monthly must pays are the expenses that don't really change and that are necessary for us to pay every month. And yes, we include subscriptions in this as well. It just makes it easier to manage when we have that there. So this might obviously change once we get jobs, but for now, our monthly must pays are rent, bills like phone, and internet, no more pet insurance, so I actually should remove that. Health insurance, that'll obviously get removed once we start working again. We have this medication Ari takes, and then dental insurance, Spotify, storage, Peloton, Google, and Netflix. So those are our monthly must pays. That totals up to $1,400 and some change. And so technically, if we were just doing our unemployment and our monthly must pays, we would have a remaining $1,900 that we could spend. Now, we went through this together already, so we highlighted the things that we wanted to look a little more deep into. So for transportation, we actually allocated $300 and we went way over what we expected to spend at $942. We actually went way over, so that was one that I'm highlighting because let's look at it. Let's look at why we went over in transportation. For groceries, I said it was green. I'm like, oh yay, we had budgeted $700 in groceries and we only spent $560. I was so happy about that. You'll see. Personal care, there was nothing allocated for that or that we spent for personal care in February. Medical, we were actually under the $100 that we had anticipated. And for shopping, we were at $13 over. Gifting was more than we had anticipated. And entertainment also over. Housing related also over. Travel was significantly more than we had planned. And that is something that we'll talk about, which is going back to this idea of like, what are necessary expenses versus what are expenses that are not necessary, but also not unnecessary. And if you choose not to spend on them, then you are losing something else in return. And so a lot of what that means is falls into the travel category, and we'll go into what that breaks down as. Nothing for pet, and then we have $600 for miscellaneous, which I'll also talk through. Eating out. Eating out was a new category that we added. We wanted to split food and groceries, and so we did that. We retroactively did that for January, and for eating out, we had almost $300. And so that leads me back to this whole groceries was great. We were way under our $700, but we were way over $700 in food when you incorporate eating out. So that is how we did on the right-hand side. We spent $4,400 in February, right? So we are at a deficit, $2,900 that came out of just our savings. Let's look at the breakdown. So every month has a money diary where we reflect on the month we want to have, where we look back on the month that we did have. So when we started February, we were like, what's going to impact our overspending? We know we had bachelor parties. Ari had a bachelor party in February, but he also got invited to one for April. So we knew bachelor parties were going to be a thing that we were going to spend money on. The other piece to it was my dad's birthday. Turning 50 is a big deal. And so I knew it was going to be something we wanted to celebrate and make a big deal about. So those were two things we understood that would impact the goals that we had set out. Where did we want to challenge our spending? So this is where we made the decision to have a no spend week. So we did February 4th to the 15th. So that's actually about 11 days. So we decided we would just spend money on the essentials, gas, train tickets, groceries only, and necessary refills and doctor copays. Spoiler alert, that wasn't the case. You can watch our vlogs to kind of understand how we went about what we spent money on. And then which value do you want to focus your spending on this month? Nothing monetary. Again, this goes back to let's spend time with people we love, giving them our time, not dollars. That one is a big one to note for me, especially because the entertainment that I did spend money on was when I took my niece and nephew to the Liberty Science Center. And so that amount is really just my ticket because my sister paid for their ticket. So how could I have, if I wanted to, entertain them in other ways? I don't think I wanted to. I wanted to go to Liberty Science Center. It had been like, I haven't been in 20 something years. Okay, so that is the looking ahead. That was how we wanted and we thought the month would go. Now let's look at the money that we spent, the income that we received. Okay, so we started with this amount of money on hand. We had this income, which we just went through. So, okay, my dress was $230, the candles were $175. Our big upcoming expenses, we had the bachelor party flight, which we estimated at $500. We had a bachelor party food and drink, which we estimated at $200 to be a total cost of $700. Now, this is something new that I added for February that didn't exist in January because I was like, okay, we spent a total of $852 on food. How did that look week by week? Did we spend a lot on groceries and eating out one week? And why? Did we have food waste? Like, how do we figure this out for the next month? And so I broke down each week in trying to understand a little more of where the money went. And the first week we had some eating out here, spending here because it was leftover from January where we had to send Venmos. So that could have been, a little more accurate to reflect what really was February, but we're going to keep it there. Our no spend weeks, we did pretty good in terms of eating. Like you see that $193 is mostly groceries. And then for the next week, we have $90 and it's pretty even split here. But after the no spend week, we go a little out of hand. So that's something to note. And it's something that comes up a lot when people do no spend weeks or when people, and I don't think we deprived ourselves because as you can see, we still ate out on our no spend weeks. It was just smaller amounts or more cost-effective eating out experiences. But once you kind of limit yourself for a certain amount of time, after you do it, how do you make sure you don't just like go back into your spending habits, right? And so we did a lot of spending groceries here. We can look into this a little more, but I'm imagining that here, let's actually take a look at it because I'm thinking what really was that money? So we want to do eating out and groceries. Let's look at later this month. Okay, so we went to Trader Joe's. That was a pretty big amount. And then 5 days before, we also went to Trader Joe's. Okay, interesting. But I remember we had an eating out experience. We had Indian food because we just didn't feel like cooking even though we had food at home. So that was something that happened. But yeah, most of it is just that Trader Joe's run. Wow, groceries just adds up. While we're on the topic of food, we also thought about March because we started doing our money for the month previously and also the month ahead. And we were like, okay, we just need to kind of agree that the cost of food is expensive. There are things and ways that we can improve. But when it comes to our groceries, we do pretty well in that we make meals at home. We have our specific things that we buy. There's like that almost no food waste that we have. And so we kind of just need to realize that the cost of groceries is high. Even though for me, I've always thought, oh, Trader Joe's has stayed like pretty affordable and all that stuff. Things just add up. And so I think that's one piece of it. And also the other piece, as we think about March and what we're going to do in terms of the food budget, for us, some of these experiences eating out, and I'll just filter out groceries. Some of these experiences eating out were like important, right? Like going with family and eating out, dinner with my mom. But some of these other things like weren't insignificant, like the Indian takeout food that we had. We had food at home. We didn't need to do that. So how do we think about our eating out experiences as experiences instead of just something we're doing out of convenience? And thinking about it that way. Because the 2 times I went into the city totaled to about like $40 in eating out. And to be honest, like I didn't enjoy the migrant kitchen, and Chipotle is Chipotle, right? Like $15 for Chipotle. What happened to our $8 bowls? So those kind of experiences like don't really matter. But anyway, that is eating out. I also want to just take a moment to talk through our transportation, because that one was a big jump, right? We budgeted $300 and spent $900. How? Well, let's tell you how. At the start of our no spend week, we had an insurance payment due. Completely lost on us that our insurance policy would renew in February. Now we know it's February, September, and then I'll figure it out again. But now we know that it's something to look out for. So the $447 for 6 months is a necessity, right? We can't go without insurance. So unexpected, but we had to pay it. And then the second thing that really just kind of surprised us was a car repair. Our car started to make a sound, and it was clear that we needed to fix a leakage that was happening. I forgot exactly what we fixed, but that was something that we didn't want to not address, because if we didn't address a repair, we could be in for a more costly expense down the line if we need to get a new car. And so let's keep the car that we have good. Let's keep it 100% so that we can delay buying a new car or buying a car for as long as possible. So we really want to make an effort in taking care of the car that we have. And fortunately, we are in the position to be able to pay for these repairs. And so we weren't going to say, well, we don't want to spend the money because we're not making money and not repair our car. We are in the privileged position to say, we have savings that can cover this repair. Let's take care of it. So that was transportation. I have some notes for Ari to look into an annual policy instead of a 6-month policy. The other piece that was of discussion, so we talked about food, was gifting. So that one was very much just the dad's 50th birthday. My mom contributed, my sister contributed, but it still was a lot, right? Which is fine. If it was just on one person to spend that money, that's when it becomes just a lot more significant. I think just in the future, when it's big birthdays, let me make a plan for it. I do love my sinking funds. So once we do get back on that income, we are going to make sinking funds for our gifting needs. What else? Let's talk about travel. Let's talk about this because I've already hinted at it many times. So let's get into it, okay? So immediately we see, and Ari has not completed this task, but immediately we see 2 flights, Alaska Airlines for $316, which truly, to go to the West Coast, I think is good. But there's 2 of us, so it adds up. We are going to Ari's childhood friend's wedding in the fall. We're going. I know weddings are expensive, and there is the option to say, oh, well, we, can't travel. It's just not in the budget, but we aren't going to miss the wedding, and it isn't in the budget as to unemployed people, but it's in our savings, as in we would still have enough money in our savings account to be okay for an emergency, even if we bought these flights. And we risked the possibility of the prices increasing if we waited on these until we had jobs. So for us, it felt like a necessary trip to take because we are going to be there to support our friends in their new chapter. And two, like, let's not wait on this because we don't know what the flight prices are going to look like. That's the one piece. The second piece here that you see is another flight. This one was a bit harder for us to hit purchase on. $800 for a domestic flight was a sticker shock. We also bought insurance because the timing is a bit tight. So we wanted to make sure Ari had insurance in order to be able to like get refunded if he accidentally misses his flight. So this one, we went back and forth about whether or not Ari could attend the bachelor party. And it was the first time we were thinking about something as like a cost prohibitive thing for us. And I think more people need to start talking about maybe missing certain events like bachelor parties or bachelorettes because of the cost that's associated to them. I just came back from a bachelorette, Tanya's last disco, which you'll see in my miscellaneous, but it was a local bachelorette, but still it costs money to attend bachelorettes. But people who might not have the funds to pay for it also don't want to miss out on these experiences. So it's really like, you either figure out how to pay for it or you miss out on all of your friends taking a trip together. And again, I think we went back and forth about whether Ari should go, whether, all that stuff. And ultimately, we decided it was important for him to go and be there for his friend and have fun with his other friend. We just thought it was something that he wanted to do that wouldn't really happen again. And so he bought those tickets, we bought those tickets, one ticket for $800. So we bought that one ticket and we said, we're going to be okay because you're going to get a part-time job. And that was really the moment we knew part-time jobs were necessary because we couldn't just keep taking from our savings. And so he's going, and this part-time job is helping us supplement the expenses that come up. We want to be there for our friends, so we just also need to just make more money. And I think that's kind of the thing for February. So I put some stuff for the bachelorette that he had in February on here as travel, just because he was traveling for it. It was in upstate New York, so it wasn't far, but still considered travel. That's the liquor store, some snacks that he purchased, and some breakfast. That was travel. That is like kind of the philosophy around what is a necessary expense? What are you willing to not attend in order to not fall? Like if we were using credit cards, I don't think we would have gone to, or I don't think we would have purchased the bachelor party tickets. I think going into debt and not being able to have a plan to pay that debt off, or being able to pay that in full, that credit card in full at the end of the month, that's when it becomes tricky. And that's when it becomes harder to say no, because you feel like you could go because you have a credit card that can supplement the cost, but that's when it's important. So I do feel like we were in a position to say yes, but I also think that we need to practice saying no to things, even though we're not using credit cards for it. And the next item to look closely at was miscellaneous. And this is a bit misleading just because everything in red is associated to the bachelor party that I just came from, and I'm going to be Venmo'd for it. But we can look at things that aren't in red, like the road runners, all the races I'm doing this year. We are running the New York City Marathon in 2025, and therefore I need to run nine races this year. And so I have officially signed up for all 9 races. I've already run just one. I have 1 on the books. That's it. Wow. Okay, I have a long way to go. And then my sister was overdraft, and so I had to send her $15. Bachelorette stuff, eBay. Ari sold a signed something, and yeah, it cost more to ship it than what we received. Wedding dress. It cost $26 to ship my wedding dress. Estimating shipping costs for reselling items has never been my forte, so I definitely lost on that, but it's okay. So that was February. I think when we look back at it, we expected the flights, but it was a sticker shock simply because of how soon it was coming. We're talking about the bachelor party here. Unexpected car issue and insurance. Insurance will not be unexpected anymore because I told Ari we need to add it to our calendar. And then money wins. So we didn't do too much eating out on our own. No spend challenge was new for us, and it helped us be more aware of how we're spending on food. Going forward, we want to be more mindful about group spending and how we split those charges. So I think a lot of times, we put things on our cards and then forget to Venmo request people, and that's fine. But I also think when the amounts are big, let's remember to do that. So that was February. Now, before we go into March, what I also recommend that you do before you go into how we're going to spend, how we're going to save, is looking at your calendar. So this is, let's remove running and training. This is my calendar where we put anything that's coming up. And so I'm going to do this with you while we're here. So March, I know the 9th, I have dinner with friends, and Ari's coming to meet with that. So that's going to be money. Let's do $3 because we're going to a nice place. So that's dinner out. I also have a trip. I am in Amsterdam. I'm going to try to be as low cost as possible, but it's something to keep in mind. So dinner with friends, I have Amsterdam. And then other than that, there are no set plans that we have. We don't have any other social commitments for March, which is a relief. Actually, let me double check on my personal calendar. Mostly we're good. I just saw that I do have book club here, and I might want to buy some stuff to make. So that's not anything, but also just to know what's coming up. So that is our month ahead. Always putting it in here with your bills so that okay, on the 27th, the Peloton gets taken out. On the 20th, I have, my Apple storage bill. But this is a good way to see where your spending could be happening. And we know that although I have a trip in March, 1 dinner scheduled, we hope to keep it pretty much aligned with how February was, because April is going to be a massive spending month. So let's go back to the spreadsheet and let's take a look at what we did. So look ahead, trip to Amsterdam. I'll need to limit my spending, no shopping. Ari might need new hockey equipment, my hockey star. He plays hockey, so we'll need to allocate for that spending. And then a new season of hockey. So again, because he's part of a league, he has to pay dues. And then again, we are doing a no spend 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks of March, we are kind of doing a let's tighten up the belt before we go on our honeymoon, which I don't know if I've shared yet, but we are going on a honeymoon in April. And we have my friend's wedding. So spendy month. And then we are okay with the fact that we are eating out. We have decided that we are okay with that as long as they're experiences with loved ones. Maybe for now, we try not to eat out when it's just the boring us too. Because we have our fun nights, being at home, movie nights where we make popcorn. Like, we don't really need to eat out, but it's always just a nice convenience like treat. Big upcoming expenses. Airbnb for the bachelor party Ari's going to. Life insurance premiums for my parents. Now, this is something that I believe is in April, but I put it on in March just so I can like be ready for it in April. And then I think we decided that we're going to pay for the hotel room for my friend's wedding in March, just so that April is just spending for honeymoon. So those are some big expenses. And already, like, you can see that's like $2,900. And everything is zeroed out so far. So Ari's action item is to estimate how much hockey equipment cost and to share it with me before his birthday. Because, oh my God, how could I not put it on the calendar? Let's go put it on the calendar. It is my husband's birthday. And we already talked about what we're going to do for birthdays. Like, this month, I think we're going to just like figure out how to make Ari's 32nd birthday special without like going all out. Although, like, I keep wanting to buy him a Mac computer because his sucks so bad. And he's done that for me in the past, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Look at him. Look at him. Okay. But that is March. That's kind of how we're thinking about the month ahead. That is how we plan. I use the spreadsheet. I use Google Calendar. I also use Copilot, which I don't show you because it does have like the very specific local restaurants I go to. But that's the app that we use to do our like day-to-day tracking. I used to do it manually, but I have a partner who doesn't like to do it manually. So, you know, in order to get it done, we need to adjust, right? So that it can get done the way that I like to do it in a spending tracker, but not in the manual way that he doesn't like to do it. So that is it for this video. I hope it gave you a little bit of an insight into how I'm managing. I don't even want to say budgeting because I'm not budgeting here. I am managing our spending. We are managing our spending while unemployed. We are receiving unemployment benefits. We're trying to resell things. Ari started his part-time job in February, but you'll see the income show up in March. So keep a lookout for that. And I think that's the biggest thing for February that we learned is like, we can cut back, but like where? Things like the cost of your car insurance are always going to be there. Things like car repairs are always going to be there. Sure, bachelor parties are a nice to have and add-ons to life, but they're experiences that we do not want to miss out on. So how do we think about how we make more money instead of how we just deprive ourselves of experiences, of things that we want to do? Last time I shared my numbers, or I don't know if it was last time I shared my numbers or how I'm budgeting with unemployment income, somebody made a comment about how I'm never going to retire and I'm spending way too much money. And I agree, I'm spending money. I'm spending a good amount of money for somebody who doesn't have a 9-to-5, but also it's my life. And as long as I'm not getting into credit card debt and wasting every single thing that we have, I am good. So thank you for your concern. And I will make a video soon on how we're thinking about as a couple, how we're going to retire early, because that is still a goal of ours. So you know what? Thank you for that comment. And with that, I will leave you. If you enjoyed this, if you want to send your good vibes so that I can, get an offer this month in March, then please hit that subscribe button and send me that good energy. Like this video. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.